So I'm in Berkeley, and my friend John is in Berkeley. So we're kind of all there in Berkeley, and so I'm going to show him the site. So we head over and hitchhike over to San Francisco, and we go along the waterfront and look at stuff there, and we finally make our way down to the Golden Gate Bridge, and we go. There's the fort that's right there underneath the Golden Gate Bridge, and we go down there, and there's the rock wall, and in front of the rock wall, seawall, and in front of that there's a chain there in front of that fort, and I'm standing there, and all of a sudden, kabam, it sounded like a cannon went off, and there's this huge splash in the water, and I said, what the heck was that? And then I look, and there's a body. This guy had just jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge, and it was one of those things where the reality of it doesn't kind of click, you know. You just like, there's something wrong with this picture. Surely that's not what happened, you know. Every time, if you ever watched what's the Vertigo, the Alfred Hitchcock Vertigo, it's right where this was all happening is right where that woman jumps in the water, and she's floating there in the water, and he has to pull her out of the water there in that movie Vertigo. So every time I see that movie, it has a special ring to it. So anyway, the Park Service guy comes running out, and they get the guy, and we leave. And so we go on back up top back up to the roadway, and we hike across. We hike across the Golden Gate Bridge, which is a neat thing to do. And later on, that became a real, you know, a must-do. And if you go to San Francisco, you got to walk across the Golden Gate Bridge. So we did that, and then we hitchhiked, and we went up to Mount Tamalpais, and got up there, and those grassy hillsides, and there's a great big oak tree, kind of like this oak tree right here behind me. And so we went up there, and we camped for the night, and we set up camp underneath that oak tree. Early the next morning, we got up, packed up, and we went down a trail, and that trail got us into the kind of the back entrance to Muir Woods. And we got there, and Muir Woods wasn't open yet, you know, the visitor center or anything. And so we kind of hung around for a little bit, and finally the ranger came up and opened it, and they were really surprised to see us, like, how'd you get here? And we had hiked down from Mount Tamalpais. And that was another thing, maybe that night when we were camping up there, and we were up there, and the sun was starting to go down, so we were sitting there watching the sun dip into the Pacific Ocean, and I hear this drum, and pretty soon there's some guy out there somewhere playing the drums, and I mean, he's playing the drums to beat the band. I guess that's a pun, isn't it? Anyway, he's playing, you know, it didn't mean anything. I was just like, all right, I guess he's playing the drums and watching what's going on, you know. Well, I don't know, 3 or 4 years later, I'm sitting in the back seat of a car, and I'm getting a ride to go see my girlfriend, and I'm kind of half asleep, and the people in the car have probably a 8-track tape going of Stairway to Heaven. And I'm kind of half asleep, and all of a sudden, the only thing I'm really conscious of is the drums in the back in that song. And it just hit me like a bolt of lightning. I go, man, that's what that guy was playing. That's the song, that's the drumming, that's what he was playing up there in Mount Tamalpais. So that was kind of an astounding kind of thing to realize that. So me and John hang out and hitchhike back over to Berkeley, and I don't remember what else we did, but it was time to go home. So we pack up and go down to University Avenue and get in the queue down there and start hitchhiking. And I don't remember a whole lot about the rides we got from there, but the next thing I can really remember clearly is we get down to we get through Los Angeles, and I know we had come through in the middle of the night through Santa Barbara, so we were out on 101. But we get to San Bernardino, somewhere in there, and we hadn't had any luck getting a ride. And finally we go over to this freight yard, for a train yard, and there's a train stopped over there, and I said, come on, let's get on this train. Let's get out of here. He goes, I don't know. And the thing starts to move. I said, man, come on, let's get on this train and go. Well, my friend John wouldn't get on the train, so we didn't get on the train. So, like I said, San Bernardino, Riverside, maybe it was more like Riverside, and we're, that's out in the desert. So we start walking and hitching and walking, and maybe we get a ride, but somehow we end up out there. There's a rest area out there in the middle of the damn Mojave Desert. We hang out there and go, and finally we get another ride out of there, and it wasn't very far, and I think where they dropped us off was a road that cut down to like Palm Springs, Palm Desert, or somewhere down there. And we were beat by then, and there was a billboard, and we just camped out, rolled our stuff out, went to sleep in front of that billboard. Got up the next morning and started walking in, trying to get to Indio. And so we're going along, and I don't know whether we got some short, but anyway, we're like 3 or 4 miles out of Indio, and this woman in a Cadillac convertible pulls over and gives us a ride. Yeah, that was really something, So we get in the caddy, and she gives us a ride into Indio, and there's a bunch of hitchhikers, as always, back then in Indio, and so we were beat. And so we look and turn out our pockets, and we've got enough money to buy 2 tickets to Tucson on the Greyhound bus. So we buy 2 tickets, and we get on the next Greyhound bus, and we ride the Greyhound bus. But before we do that, I call home, and I talked to my dad, and I said, we need some money. And I think I said, I don't know how I came up with it, but anyway, I think it turned out to be $62. And before I left on this journey, I had gone, and my mom had, let me back up. I had let my mom use my car because she needed a way to get to work, and so I was hitchhiking to school, and but I let her have the car so she could get to work. And so before I left, I talked with my dad, wanted to know if I'd sell it to him. So I gave him what was really a good price, and I sold him my car. And I said, okay, give me half the money right now. And so I took half that money with me. And I said, while I'm gone, put the other half in my bank account. So I'll have some money when I get home, or if I get into trouble and I need some more money, I can call and get it. So I called and asked for the $63, and so he wires the money to the Western Union office in Tucson. So we ride the bus from Indio across Arizona over into Tucson, and get off the bus in Tucson, and find out where the Western Union office is. It's only a couple of blocks away, and we go down there, get our money, come back, buy 2 tickets home, all the way home from there, and the bus that we got in there is still waiting. So we just climb back on the bus, and we're on our way home. And so we ride that bus, and it takes us all the way back home. And that was the end of the grand epic adventure for me of 1972. I covered over 6,000 miles in those 2 months, and I hitchhiked, I rode the bus, I drove a car, I spent 24 days in the Glacier Peak Wilderness, plus numerous other hikes and camps and other things. trying to get across the desert. It's well over 100 degrees. And so sort of to me, the scoreboard of my life for that 2 months was I spent all that time in the Glacier Peak wilderness learning all those skills of cooking, building campfires, cooking meals on campfires, making shelters, hiking, making sure, you know, your boots are okay and your clothing, you know, and staying clean, and all those skills of living in the outdoors. And for 24 days to do all that stuff, it pretty much, if you apply yourself, it really gives you a group of skills that is of immeasurable value, and it served me through the rest of my life. You know, so far it's just something I can lean on, knowing and gain the confidence I got because I know how to do all those things. And one of the last things that happened when I got off the Outward Bound course is I got some mail, and in the mail I got a letter from the draft board. Back then they had a lottery, and my number was 8, so my number was up to go and get in the military and go to Vietnam. And as it turned out, I flunked my physical. I was declared unfit for military service, and I didn't go to Vietnam. And another kind of epic thing that happened there. And I came back from that, and I was, you know, kind of, as I mentioned, you know, when you have time alone, traveling and stuff, and mulling your life and stuff over, and I said, you know, I found out there's a thing that you can get a college degree in forestry. And when I looked at what the courses, what you did to get a degree in forestry, I said, well, that's what I want to do. I want to be able to go and work and do things outdoors, which is what I did. Actually, I went ahead, I applied myself, and I got a college degree, Bachelor of Science in Forestry, Forest Ecology and Soil. So that's what I got out of that deal, and that's another thing that happened from that trip and that deal. But just before the year ran out, just before the end of that year, I met a fine young lady who I would date, hang out together, and finally we would get married, and I am still with that person to this very day. And so all those things in that 1 year, and I was given a more than a half scholarship to attend that Outward Bound school, and that money came from a man by the name of DeWitt Wallace. And it was a number of years later that I finally found out who DeWitt Wallace was. And DeWitt Wallace is the founder of Reader's Digest. He's the man that invented that, you know? He's the man that invented that. So there you go, 1972, an epic year by every stretch of the imagination. And I hope you've come along on this journey. It's been a long one, and I hope you've enjoyed this. And thanks a lot.